I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a book club podcast. Witchercast.
Witchercast.
Coronacast.
Yeah, man. I guess we should address the elephant in the room. Are we gonna have deets next week? I know that's on everyone's mind.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing about. Everybody at work is asking.
Yeah.
I see it on the Twitter sphere.
I mean, as long as I'm
Number
healthy.
one trending topic.
Going to the ranch on Sunday, though, so...
Oh, so that's like the ultimate social isolation.
Yeah.
Or social distancing is what they're calling it.
Sunday or Saturday, after work Saturday. So right when I get coronavirus, I'll go to the ranch and give it to Mom.
There you go.
She'll go spread it to Portland.
Nice. There you go. I wonder if there's any confirmed cases in San Pat yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not that I've heard of. I don't know.
I feel like everybody should be able to keep their distance like they're recommending.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit easier there, population density wise. I think we've got 10 confirmed cases in Travis County right now, or in Austin proper at least, maybe not the entire county.
Damn, that's a lot.
I mean, it's gone from 0 to 10 in a week,
It's a lot. I saw an ambulance on the way over here and I was like, oh, great.
I did too.
Dude, I just keep
But
thinking,
I mean, that's no different than any other day in Austin.
I normally don't see them,
yeah.
so dun, dun, dun.
I feel like at least 2 or 3 times a week I see some sort of emergency vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who I'm kidding. The other day I saw a car that was on fire. Like this was last week.
Oh, good old ATX. But in any case, we're still reading The Witcher. It's better than ever.
Yeah.
Don't
before we get too far, make sure you bump elbows.
Oh yeah, do the elbow bump. Don't do any fist bumps. No handshaking. Keep your sleeve over your elbow as you touch the other person's sleeved elbow.
Smart. I didn't even think of that.
That's what you do.
Leo was there today at work, and he was like, "Oh, what's up, man? Bow me." We bumped elbows. It felt so dumb.
That's funny.
But it kind of felt like, you remember Kenneth and Steven's handshake, how they'd like smash arms and it'd be like an X in the air.
Yeah, I remember that. It was dumb.
I kind of felt like Leo and I were doing that when we bumped bows. But...
I think I elbowed somebody earlier today at work. But I don't usually handshake a lot of people anyways.
Yeah, I mean,
there's one guy that I fist bump pretty regularly, but that's it.
Yeah, I throw fist bumps around pretty regularly, but
that's
I guess we're not even allowed to do that.
But
yeah, sorry. I just had to get that out. Yeah, man, it's good. It's really good. Lots of great fight scenes. I mean, there were always great fight scenes. This book was built on like fight scenes and then telling stories from other perspectives. Like,
right.
Like, I'm going to tell you about the past. Because we had it always seems to be a bit of a time skip between each book, and then it's like a story about the past, and then like even as we're going through the book, like right at the end, Cahir was telling Geralt about like
his side of the series story. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a fun. I mean, I guess I noticed that was kind of his storytelling like method, but it was sort of this listen that I was like really thinking like, okay, that's like definitely. I mean, I should have realized that that's definitely his style beforehand, but like it really sort of sunk into me like that, because we really haven't done a whole lot. Like all we're doing is traveling. We're kind of traveling. We're meeting people along the way, which is definitely interesting. It's cool. Geralt has things to do everywhere. Everybody loves Geralt, right. But it's just, it's just interesting because like most of the big things that we get in the story are like tellings of the story from other
what
people.
had happened.
So it's not even a completely accurate telling because it's just their memory of the
story. Because I think we skip ahead like maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks from the end of the last book.
Right.
From the end of Baptism of Fire to the beginning of Tower of Swallows. I think there's like a week and a half period of time or whatever where all the shit that happens to Ciri that ends her up at that hovel in the middle of the swamp happens, and everything that we're reading with Geralt's group has happened in that period of time, but then being told retrospectively. Like all of Ciri's stuff we're hearing retrospectively from her giving the story to her savior there in the swamp, and then not everything, but half of the story with Geralt's group was being told through 50 years of poetry, Dandelion's memoir, and then up to a point that we catch up with him, which even then is still not caught up to where we had gotten to Ciri, because they still hadn't experienced the equinox yet. That's like the pivotal moment in time where everything seems to sort of convalesce. And we're still not caught up to that point Oh no, we did catch up to that point finally in the last chapter, I think. But yeah, so the sort of change?
Or no?
Well, not something.
Not the sun.
Yeah, something in the telling of time change in the way that farmers used to do.
Yeah, like it was like a blood moon or something, I think.
Yeah, and it being a blood moon was what made them think that maybe Ciri was dead or something terrible had happened, because that's always a prophesied sort of thing. For
some reason, I thought that was like the equinox. I was like, I guess this is when like all the wizards and stuff are having like all their powers go crazy.
Oh, I think that it is like a magical night. Like things can happen on that night and will happen on that night. But apparently they were under the assumption that because it was a blood moon, not just your standard equinox, it was that something had happened, and given all the prophecy that they had been having with Ciri, and as important as she is being the child of destiny, that maybe that had something to do with it, that maybe she's dead now.
Even the moon would bleed red.
Right. And so
Regis is probably like jonesing to party up on that day.
Right,
It's just like, today would be the day.
Yeah, this is the day. It's like recovering alcoholics on St. Patty's Day, which is today, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I got to work.
Happy St. Patty's Day,
everybody. Happy birthday, Terry. I got to work.
Oh, yeah, it's Terry's birthday. I told him that already, but I'll tell him again. Happy birthday, Terry.
Yeah. I got to work and I thought like, oh shit, it's St. Patty's Day and it's Terry's birthday. And I am not wearing green, but nobody's going to pinch me because they have to keep the distance. Because
coronavirus saved Jordan today.
Yeah, from the pinch.
I don't think I've ever been pinched on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, I do.
Maybe when I was a kid, just because it's like funny to be like, I got you, like, like an aunt or something like that.
I think I got pinched last year.
Oh, yeah? I've never
get pinched all the time
that I know of. I've never been in my adult life. I have never been pinched for St. Patrick's Day. Maybe like twice I thought about it on the morning, be like, oh, I'll wear a green shirt or something stupid like that. But even then, like mostly I'm working. I can't wear anything green.
Right.
I don't. My uniform won't allow it.
That's not school spirit, but it's like holiday spirit.
Right. Yeah.
St. Patty's Day.
But yeah, I imagine that Regis is definitely feeling it. And maybe not, though, with everything that's going on. He's pretty distracted.
I mean, he's definitely...
He probably had like a thought, right? He'd be like, oh, that's right. It's the equinox. I should be partying.
I feel like, yeah, I'm sure it's crossed his mind a couple of times because every full moon, I think he said they would party too. Mm-hmm. But on the equinox, it's got to be a good one.
Yeah. That's like that's the rager.
Yeah. Twice a year, I think.
Yes.
Winter and summer.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I don't think they're called that.
Yeah, huh? I'm just kidding.
I think they're called like the vernal and the something else, like another like science word, or maybe not even science, but like old word. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Typically it's the winter and summer solstice, which are different things. Mm-hmm. I think that the equinox happens in the spring and the fall. I
definitely turned them into the same thing. My bad. We're not dealing with both, right?
No.
Okay, good. I was like, crap.
That would be too much magic.
Too much magic.
But yeah, and so now we're caught up basically with everybody. I think at this point, all the storylines should be aligned time-wise, as far as like, how far everybody's progressed in the days. At some point, though, of course...
Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, at some point, we're going to all come back together, of course.
Yeah, dude, I can't
maybe
wait.
by the end of this book.
I sure hope so.
Or at least two of the parties will get back together. Exactly, I think it's likely that Ciri and Yennefer get back together, and Geralt is still out there wandering around because that's his destiny to never actually find what he wants to find. I think that maybe Yennefer and Ciri get together. I think two of the three parties definitely get together. And what combination it is, I don't know. I think it's likely to be Yennefer and Ciri.
Okay, I can believe that. Especially because Ciri's... Oh, okay. So, like, the time them telling stories kind of got me second guessing stuff because I was like, shit, is this a retelling? And it's just like I missed who she's telling it to. But Ciri's fighting in a tournament.
She's currently...
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not her telling somebody, right?
No, that is her telling.
God damn it.
She's still at the house.
Oh, she's still... No wonder nothing's happened, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, I keep thinking like, shit, weeks have gone by. Ciri's gotten tortured and beaten into like being a submissive girl. And this whole time she's telling... the hermit at his house in the marshes that you can't track.
Yeah,
the untrackable
every
marshes.
single time one of her sections of her story ends before we jump to another character, it ends with that same like 2-paragraph thing. Okay. If somebody was at the
that makes a lot more sense,
but nobody was because you can't find this house, and it says that every single time, which makes me think that somebody is literally outside the window, like in spite of not being able to be, and that's why it's saying it so fucking often.
Trying to make us into this false sense of security,
right?
Yeah,
but then it's also like too obvious. Like too obvious that would be the thing that happens, right? That they're going to say over and over again, this is impossible, but somebody's there. Oh my God. Like that's too obvious.
If somebody's there, it would probably be the sorcerers and sorcerers, right? Like seeing her.
I'm thinking it's
like,
Bonhart.
Visually. Yeah, I guess it could be. He's
like
the
some
Boba
like
Fett of this world, right?
Yeah, he's some sort of
badass.
like supernatural badass.
Yeah, as much as we're not supposed to like him, he's kind of.
I think that he's
cool powers.
like
just not powers, but like he's
right.
He's pretty, he's
no
great
like
at what
powers
he does.
that have been
badass.
outright exhibited or admitted yet. I think he's like a vampire or something.
Higher.
Because they describe him as being like sort of inhuman in his appearance. Even
I kept getting vibes of like Regis from
yeah.
Like while I was hearing,
I think they describe him as having
was...
like black eyes.
Oh,
he's got no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes.
Maybe he's like a demon.
He's some sort of like supernatural thing. That's I think. Cool. And certainly with his like just obscene power, even if it is just physical strength and speed and that sort of stuff. Dark elf. He's a dark elf, right? So he seems like something has happened to him that makes him more than human. But this is also a fantasy story where there can just be a freak like that, just some human that's obscenely powerful. So one or the other. We'll find out, whenever they cut him open finally. But
inspect,
right?
Inspect the inside.
Well, then he like bleeds blue or something like that, and then Geralt's like, he was a.
Yeah, we learned about that back in school,
right? And so he's probably like, whenever Ciri's done telling the story, that's when Bonhart pops up and he's like, "Hey, I was here the whole time. Haha! I was the one that wasn't supposed to be at the windowsill looking in and seeing the ashen-haired girl with the cat on her lap next to the old man that was doing furs." Like that same shit that it says every single time. So I think that's kind of what happens there, and then she has to run again.
Or it'll be
but
like
then that's when Yennefer just pops up and saves the day or something
anywhere. Maybe they're both kind of there because I think Bonhart. I hope that like nobody's there because they keep saying it,
right?
But no, I'm sure you're right that we're just being lulled. Last time when we guessed it, it was like we were pretty close.
It's both like an obvious misdirection and too obvious that it's a misdirection.
I mean, honestly,
it's weird.
He's a trapper in the marshes. Like, if you can't track anybody, how do you see like game trails and stuff? Like to trap. Like, do you just have to guess?
Well, I guess it's just like he's been there now for how long? A really long time. So now he knows everything. He's probably developed some of those game trails a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you were just somebody who never had any business there before and you're just like, oh, fuck, I got to try and find something in there, that's not going to happen.
Oh, what if Vern is in there?
Right. Yeah. Crossover of the century. Fuck Marvel.
Vern.
But what else?
It was cool her telling like the story of her like in this gladiator type, the movie Gladiator, not literally like a gladiator scenario, but like it was, she was in an arena fighting, and she takes like that potion that like she had taken.
Well, she's taking coke is what it is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's like it's a cocaine analog, Phys Tech.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. People like coke, right?
Yeah. people love that. Okay, it like heightened it. He's making it all cool. The author, it's all like
right. Well, the stuff that like that they give her right before she goes into the arena is like drug lord stuff, like super high quality. The stuff that she had been doing with the rats,
right? Yeah, I was about to bring
like
that up.
Stuff that was like cut with bleach, and just like the shit that you would find like
For
on
some
the actual
reason, I was
street.
thinking it was something that would like help him. Like I thought the tattoo would hurt too bad or something, so they were taking like an opium type thing that would kind of just get him like high.
I think that they were doing that just because they were being like, just like slovenly, crime ring people that are just like, oh, we just came on this big catch and we're kings of the world and we do whatever we want, because there's like snorting it and they're rubbing it in their gums as well.
Oh, okay.
So that's what at least
literally
made me,
cocaine,
and they describe it as a narcotic. So that's what I was like, oh, okay, so that's supposed to be cocaine. Phys Tech. That's what they call it. Or Phys Tech. I don't know. Fistech. So
I don't know how I turned it into a potion in my head. I was just like, these guys gave her a potion.
I think they also say that it's a white powder. So it was like white powder, rub it in your gums or snort it, narcotic. Oh, it's coke. But it's they describe it like they do anything else in this book, which is where they just assume that you know because you're a part of this world already.
Right, yeah.
You know? It's not like they went into like 3 paragraphs of Fistek was developed by the gnomes back in blah, 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 blah. And it's a thing, blah, 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 blah. Geralt's just like, oh, why are you doing Fistek? That fucks with you. You know, that's it.
Yeah. Kind of like Bonhart, like, wasn't he sort of introduced like this book, you know? Right. So like we hadn't met him before.
I don't think so, unless they.
I want to say we'd talked.
They might have mentioned his name at the end of the last book, like saying
didn't know who he was.
No, yeah, we had no idea like who he actually was or anything.
So when the
rats just
got brought up that like he was hunting them, they were like, oh no,
right? You know? Yeah, he's the badass, badass.
And then Ciri's like, who?
Right? Yeah. She gets to be that window for the reader to get some exposition.
That's cool.
We heard he killed these 2 gangs all at the same time. Like this sort of like quick backstory, of legend telling.
Yeah.
The rats are all gone.
Yeah.
Which happened a lot quicker than I thought.
Yeah, I thought we'd get like a.
I didn't think they were going to matter anymore, but I didn't think it was literally going to be in one swoop. Mm-hmm. Because Bonhart's just like that much of a badass.
Yeah, they seemed. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. I think I thought for sure we'd get like a little bit of a throwback, even with maybe Missile. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. He switched to Dandelion in this book.
Yeah, I thought that was really interestingly done. And more so from the print standpoint because you can't see italics in an audio book. But at the beginning of every chapter of all of these books, when it has like a little excerpt from some other historical book in the thing, except there was one from the Bible in this last chapter, like the actual Bible from Genesis. There was it's always in italics to show that it's being read from a book that is not this book, in the way that every book does that.
Yeah.
And it started off and it was a section from 50 Years of Poetry, which had been done in other of the previous books as well, just like, give a reference point from a character that we know. And it's always kind of like, oh, well, that's the book that Dandelion wrote. Oh, cool. And then the chapter starts and it's just 3 paragraphs of italics. And it's continuing from his, excerpts of 50 Years of Poetry. And I just thought that was an interesting implementation of that method, that we're going to get the recap of what had happened to bring us up to speed from Dandelion's point of view, which of course would be in his memoir. And it's just continuing off from the lead-in excerpt before the chapter, which was from his memoir. And I just thought that was an interesting sort of, because it's always like the next page. You read the thing, hit the next page, chapter.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. Excerpt that puts into context what's going to happen from Dandelion's book. Boom. Oh, we're reading Dandelion's book now.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was neat.
Yeah, that is neat. You don't ever get like the feeling that... Yeah, I mean, never mind. I was going to say you don't get the feeling Dandelion wrote this book, but I mean, he wrote the 50 Years of Poetry. So, and then that being told in
right. And the 50 Years of Poetry definitely covers all of these events, more or less. Although I guess he kind of outright says that his memoir is starting from the Battle of the Bridge. Like that's what sort of inspired him to do it. So I guess maybe, I don't know.
Every time I hear 50 Years of Poetry, I think like fondly on this book that I don't even know about. I'm just like, the 50 Years of Poetry. Oh, Dandelion, he wrote such a nice book. I love that they all called him out on like the, not hypocrisy of it, but like the fact that it's like, you're not even 50 yet. You're like 30. You got 20 more years of poetry.
It's literally impossible for you to have done 50 years of poetry at this point. Yeah, that was a really funny conversation.
I'm dying soon. Like, hey, come on.
Yeah, I'm not dying tomorrow, and I don't want to be too old to remember the details to fucking start doing it when I'm 90.
Yeah, so I'll start now.
Right, yeah, makes sense.
Oh, shoot, I had something I was going to ask you, and then I just lost it.
Well, that's the end of the episode, folks.
Right. Well, stay
not
clean.
Even 20
no
minutes.
More coronavirus. Yeah. Oh, man, what was it? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Man. I've been playing the game a lot.
Yeah. You've texted me a few times to ask me this or that.
Yeah, it turns out that thing with that I texted you about. It was
when you were fighting the Griffin.
Yeah,
or getting ready to fight the Griffin.
Yeah, there was. Apparently you just had to equip it to your belt or something. I thought you had to mix it into a thing, and you just had to put it on your belt.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's been cool. It's like I keep getting like caught up in side quests that are like way above my level. Yeah,
super easy to do.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I haven't really met honestly, I haven't really met anybody that we know. I mean, I met Yennefer that one time, but like I haven't gotten far enough to meet any other characters yet. Like I haven't met Dandelion. I haven't met Ciri.
Think of who you'll meet first. I mean, I won't say, I don't think. There's 2 characters that you'll meet first that are characters that we know.
No, okay. Hope it's Regis.
I can't remember who's first between the 2 of them, though. Or at least that I remember having met. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you start off having meeting Vesemir, his mentor from the Witcherdom. And then you meet 2 people that now we know because now I've read the books. Mm-hmm. There might have been others that I didn't realize were characters in the books and everything prior to, because I hadn't read the books at that point. But I'll be interested to see what you think when you meet the 2 characters. There's 2 that I know for sure you'll meet, and I assume that they're before anybody else, and I think I know which one's first. But
yeah, I mean, it's been fun.
It's Kira Metz.
Yeah. How far are you in the game?
The last time I looked at my hour count on Steam, it was like 55 hours.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not sure. And then I've gone on and met a couple of people. Like I've met Dijkstra and Triss. Mm-hmm. Obviously I met Kira. I think that I haven't run face to face with Yennefer yet, but she pops up in cutscenes.
Oh, okay,
yeah. And then obviously you play as Ciri a couple of times in like different side flashes. Cool. Oh, okay. You're coming up on one pretty quick. If you've gotten past the Griffin, you're coming up on one pretty quick. It just suddenly cuts to her.
Nice.
And you're playing as her because she's separated. Obviously, Geralt's looking for her as always.
Does she have her Tower of Swallows swords?
I assume so.
That's cool. That sort of sounded cool.
They didn't mention. They didn't make any sort of remark on it in the sections with her.
Does she have that black horse for a long time?
I don't remember.
Yeah, that horse was cool. Dude, that sex scene was kind of weird. Like, they didn't have sex, but like...
Yeah, it was odd.
Yeah, I just like... Before I knew it, it was like the freaking spit on her nipple was drying. And I was like, when did he even have his mouth on her nipple? I think she just nodded at him saying it was fine. And then thought his like heart was going to explode and push all the blood out.
That's what I feared was going to happen, was that he was going to die like in the middle. I was like, this is going to be a mildly grotesque sex scene. Yeah. And then he just dies before anything even really starts. Yeah,
I like that Ciri had the foresight too to like, all right, how long ago was my period? Like,
right, yeah.
Like she's very...
as she reflects the things that Yennefer taught her. Mm-hmm. Yennefer was teaching her to be a very practical and forward-thinking sorceress, such as she.
Well, I mean, it was good thinking. I mean,
right.
It's not. I mean, Ciri was even without that I don't know, insight. I don't think I think it would have gone down the same way because Ciri was refusing, and then she finally gave in at the end. And
well, the point was to get her alone, to let the guy die, and it's in a relatively comical fashion. And then now Ciri has to try and run away, and so she does, but she runs back to the trap in Regret, or what was it called? The name of the town that they were in. It was like
Marshtown.
No, the one where everybody gets fucked by what's his name? It was like Regret or no, Jealousy is what it was named.
I was gonna say it was some like
she flees to
petty name.
Yeah, she goes to Jealousy because she realizes that it was in fact a trap for the rats to have to go there and get fucked up by Bonhart.
Yeah, what if the old guy, the hermit, is a trap?
Possibly, but I feel like how do they explain that?
Yeah, and why would he have healed her?
That would be so insanely complicated, I think.
And with his backstory, he seems pretty innocent.
He's a double fugitive.
Yeah,
from both.
Pretty innocent. I just said innocent.
Well, I just mean he doesn't have innocent in the sense that he wouldn't have anything to gain from either side.
Right. He's a double fugitive from
the Northern Kingdoms and from Nilfgaard.
For having weird beliefs.
He was pretty countercultural in his publications that he was putting out as a professor.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I can't even remember his name. Galileo. No, who said the world was round first? And they threw him in jail.
Was that Galileo or Aristotle? No, they all got fucked up. Yeah. Every single one of those philosophers got fucked up before they died. Most of them died because they were getting fucked up.
And they were wrong anyway. It's still flat.
It is flat the whole time. I've seen so many convincing videos on YouTube.
And the coronavirus was made by the Dims. No, I'm just kidding. I've seen so many videos that are just like, what? They're just dumb. Everybody's loving
the internet is so
Cyrus.
fucking stupid.
It's dumb.
I spend more time on it than it deserves with how fucking stupid it is, as if it's its own entity. Culturally, it kind of is, but that's a kind of esoteric discussion that we don't need to get into.
What do you think, like, the Witcher style of fighting is? Like, we've been kind of given hints at it, like, I already forgot his name, Bonhart?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that...
describing the names of techniques that Ciri's using and how a lot of it is improvised in the way that only the Witchers would have been able to teach.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting because I'm not like in the game fighting like that. I'm sure I'm not fighting.
Oh no! Whenever I fight
right
in that
way.
game, it's just like and then roll away.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm trying to imagine like this graceful like fighting style with all this foresight.
I just use Ard over and over and say.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah. Geralt also has had this freaking leg injury for like 2 books now. 3 He's forever.
Yeah, he didn't let it heal all the way.
I mean, come on, guy. Take a potion.
Right. Take a potion, yeah. Yeah.
The red one.
I wonder if that's ever something that gets resolved. Like if in between books there's, a month of respite that we skip over and then like we open the book with like out of habit girl massaged his left knee in spite of the pain having long been subsided, or something like that, that would be like an easy way to explain it.
And then of course we'd get the story later on as he tells somebody else what happened.
Right. Yeah. It is. I think this is the first time that we get, what's the word that I'm looking for? Asynchronistic storylines in the book, which then sets a precedent for them having done it in the show finally. Because them doing it in the show, as we've talked about it and did talk about it on our show, was weird that they were doing it in that way to have everything at any given point in time, potentially hundreds of years apart, and not exactly explaining it outright.
Definitely, yeah.
And I thought that's an interesting choice. Like I get why they think they have to do this, but it's weird that they're doing it and also not outright saying anything to give it like a tip off. The only reason that I have the inkling is because I have already read things and I'm already bought in and invested and have prior knowledge. But now that it's happening in one of the published books that it's based on, I can see, okay, so it's been done before, so they're not too far off track at least.
Yeah, I mean, the more I'm reading of these books, I'm like, man, the fans of the guys that made the show or whoever made the show have got to be huge fans of these books.
Yeah.
Like they
everything that I read and heard, because a couple of times they had people from the show on different podcasts I listened to, and anytime they talked to them and anything that I read about it, they seem like they are super serious and passionate about it and want to make it the best that they can.
That's awesome.
And so hopefully, it doesn't, because at that point, then, that means that if it continues to run, which we know it's got the second season coming, if it's successful and then that continues to run into a third season and so on and so forth, and these guys continue to get paid well enough to stick with it, then it'll just be good. And it's not being handed off to 2 people who have no idea what the hell is going on, like what happened with Game of Thrones, where just from the beginning, Benioff and Weiss admitted that they had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah, they were just super nerds of the book. So they're like, let's go for it. Right?
I was saying that they weren't, that they didn't give a shit and they knew nothing about it.
Oh, no, they were super nerds for the books. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Game of Thrones and how Benioff and Weiss didn't care.
No, they
and
were
didn't
super
bother
nerds
to learn
for the
anything.
books. No, they loved it, dude. George R. R. Martin had a meeting with them before they were allowed to start writing and producing the books, and he was like, "Who is Jon Snow's mom?" And no, who is Jon Snow's like father? And then they like told them the like fan theory that like they were in it so far before the fan theory was even like widespread. I feel like I don't know. That's just what I heard a long time ago. That they were like they basically had to get his permission by passing the test of answering the only question which is like the biggest mystery of the whole book that he's alluding to the whole time.
Right. But if they're being offered the position, they can do research before they actually meet with him.
Right, but I mean, just everything that I've seen, and it would lead me to believe that they were huge fans of the book and the story.
Well, I saw an interview with them after season 6 where they said, "We've never known what we're doing here."
Yeah, but that's, I mean, anybody, I feel like people just say that, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people that, like, I've heard a lot of documentarians go and just say, like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to make a documentary. And a lot of people are like, well, that's why it was so awesome, you know, because they were just, because they had, like, their own unique inspiration to it or whatever. But
yeah, but at least in that scenario, like, a documentary is only benefited by authenticity.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess. I just feel like them saying, that like they never knew what they were doing is like they never knew how they were going to end it, so they never knew where they were going with it.
I mean, it certainly could be interpreted in different ways. You're right,
but yeah, I don't. Yeah, because
but I think that they never knew given the other clues were like they constantly forgot their own plot points, and they were constantly just like leaving things out and saying like, fuck that, we don't care anymore.
Yeah, they shouldn't have written their own side stories like that.
Yeah, I think all the other clues being taken into. You know, if I was looking at this as like a giant puzzle, which obviously it's not, it's more complicated than that. You know, with them certainly looking like they don't know what they're doing with that show after, you know, certainly after the source material ended, and even right before the source material ended, they were still getting off the rails. And then like, you know, storylines that never meant anything, both storylines that were, you know, like from the book and not from the book that they created on their own, like these characters that never meant anything and didn't matter, like, still Gendry didn't actually ever matter. He becomes Lord of Stormzen at the end, but that's just because they needed another friendly face on the council at the end there.
Yeah.
There's just like a bunch of stuff that ended up not mattering that they made us think so hard were going to matter and that seemed so obvious like they were going to matter. What was another big one? It doesn't matter. I don't need to get into it too much. And then, and then to put all of that in context with them being like, yeah, we never actually knew what we were doing, guys, you know, makes it seem like, oh yeah, y'all weren't right for this at all.
I don't know. I thought they did a good job, even as a whole, as it's all completed. But
well, up until season 6, I would agree. I think that the show is good, and I think that there are still meritorious parts of 7 and 8, but the extreme majority of 7 and 8 is garbage.
I can't sign off on that completely, but I do see where you're coming from. Yeah, and I mean, I guess from that same vein, I hope something like that doesn't happen with The Witcher. Not to say that somebody else couldn't modify a story and make it a little better.
Right.
But that is always the argument. Can you do that when there's already something out there that's so successful? Like this book is a New York Times #1 bestseller. I don't know if the first two were, but I know this one is. Like, if this is the third. The fourth. This is the fourth.
This is 4, yeah.
And and those other two were like prequels. I don't know when it became a New York Times bestseller, but I know that this one is like it's on my little Audible thing, or I saw it when I was Googling the book list or something. I don't know where I saw it, but I saw that and I thought that was like.
I wonder when
after the
after the show and after the games maybe as well. Like when did it make bestseller? Yeah. Did it make bestseller when it was published or post games or post show? Because that would be an interesting facet as to why it's now bestseller,
especially the New York Times #1 bestseller.
Right. Because I imagine when it was first published, like I think this one was published in 2000 or 99 or something like that. So I doubt that, and I don't think that it made it to the States until like 2006 or something like that. If I remember what we would looked up, you know, months back now when we were trying to figure out the timeline of publishing and what that means. So yeah, that would be an interesting thing to find out. But anyways, wherever you were going with that.
Oh yeah, I kind of, I don't know. I was just thinking like, it's hard to imagine you could change a story and make it better, especially if it's already so good. And I was saying,
that makes sense.
A bestseller, but if it's just a bestseller because it happened to be, I mean, it wouldn't have been so popular though if it wasn't like a full, well-rounded, complete story. Even leading up to it, it feels like certainly it's going to have a good
book 4, right? Because even if it is something that came after the games and the show, people still had to get through the first 3 in the saga, even if they didn't read the prequels.
Yeah, for the 4th one to be a bestseller, that's a good point.
That means that enough people were invested long enough to get through 1, 2, and 3 to then also buy book 4 in mass and make it a bestseller.
We've seen a lot of sequels on our top books of the year list, you know, that have been like voted for awards and stuff. I mean, at least I know that I have the last time we were looking for a book. Excuse me, we saw like a lot of sequels, which it's easy to get through the first one and crave the second one.
Well, the first one can also be something that gets bought in a very spread out time frame by the audience, and then everybody gets on board over the course of 3 years, and then second book hits and everybody's ready to buy it that weekend, and so then it's the same numbers that the first one sold over the course of 2 years in one weekend for the second book.
I guess the creative license that they are taking with it, the storytelling method of like kind of I hope it's not,
but they're also telling a lot of backstory. Certainly all of Yennefer's backstory is something that we only get anecdotally from her throughout the series, and I think that it is important to tell that story. It was interesting that they told it in the way they did, because I think a lot of people ended up being confused.
Right. That's exactly. That's what I was thinking. It's just, I wonder if the way that they're going with it is going to be just more confusing and only doing justice to the fans that are like, it's really like kind of stroking that like,
like this is for the fans. Like, we're not doing common, like most common denominator bullshit. Yeah.
So I wonder, because they could have done like a little bit more, I don't want to say streamlined, but a little bit less like, because I was confused and I've read it. It's just so
they did. Nothing in there was obvious except for like outright statements here and there, like I still feel like I'm reading stuff that I heard about in this show or that I saw in the show. I was like, probably.
Wait, didn't that happen?
I think that there's whoever the lore master showrunner is paying attention and making sure that things do line up properly. As much as can, obviously, because there's some things in the translation from any medium to another medium that aren't going to happen because it is next to impossible or costs too much money. Certainly for a pilot season for a show like The Witcher. But they're paying attention enough that things will continue to make sense, and the things that they referenced in the first season do make sense in the context of the books. And like you said, we'll read things and be like, they talked about that in the show, makes sense, So they're doing a good job on that. I think now that they've gotten through the complicated part in the show, that now they'll be able to tell it more or less one for one with the books moving forward, and it's not going to be as confusing.
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely still have to cut through storylines, and I wonder if they're going to do what the book does, where it tells everything in past tense. Like, it'll be them in the present telling you, like, obviously Ciri made it through all this, but we're going to get to why she has this big star on her face.
I don't think that works for a show. I don't think you can do that for a show.
I don't think it works super well for a show either, but I guess we'll see. I mean, they haven't done it yet.
Because the only show that I know of that's done that for an extended period of time is How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, I can't think of,
because ostensibly that's just him telling the story to his kids,
Right.
And and every time that they cut back to what's Bob Saget talking to the kids, I was like, this is the dumbest part of the show. I wish that they would just tell the fucking show.
Yeah, it's always that same like video of
it's too long for that to go on. Like, you can do that in a movie like Tarantino does all the time, or where things are out of order, like you see the end first and then you get everything leading up to it, or someone telling the story. That makes more sense in a 1.5 to 2 hour setting where it's a concise single story. When there's 800 things going on like it is in this, and you're trying to spread that out over 4 seasons of a 10 episode a season show, that doesn't work at all, I don't think.
Yeah, it's almost kind of hard for me even when I mean, especially just because of how I'm taking it in, because of how I'm listening to it. It's even kind of confusing for me. Just like I was saying earlier, I was just like, is this happening now, or was this her story of all that happened? And you were like, oh, that's her telling the story still. I was like, well, kind of.
Right.
Yeah. So, just because no, I already said it, but like not a whole lot no time really is going, but like there is the gap between the two books.
It's like a period of the time that is happening from the beginning of everything that's happening in this book to where we are now and where Ciri is, I think is a 2-week period.
Yeah.
Everything seems to happen in a 2-week period, which is the quarantine period if you have coronavirus.
It's also probably why the whole story is being told kind of in past, like in a past from them, because it isn't a whole lot of time going on. I mean, I guess if it's like as fast spreading as coronavirus, then like the war.
Right, yeah.
How fast does war spread, like not back in the day, because it's not like in the past we had this going on.
Right. It depends on a lot of things. Right? Like if you look at, and I'm going to get a lot of these timelines wrong, but if you look at like World War I, which is, much as we romanticize World War II and make a bunch of video games and movies about it, World War I was more important than World War II from a geopolitical standpoint.
Ooh, Ooh, take that World War II.
and that pretty much all came together like in the span of like the 2 years, maybe, like not long at all, for an entire world to be at war with each other.
This is just Nilfgaard.
Right. And obviously, if there's only 2 countries involved in a war, that's a day. You know, if someone declares war or an attack happens, and now we're at war. Mm-hmm. If like a world but then like World War II, it was like 4 years before America got involved, and the war was already like in earnest at that point. So there's a lot of factors that determine how quickly war will spread. In a situation like this, where most of the existing countries are involved, pretty much all the northern kingdoms are involved, although they weren't all immediately involved. It was just like the bordering states getting invaded by Nilfgaard, and people like, okay, well, we'll help our ally, but then the person who's furthest north is like, we'll wait, and then seeing, oh shit, we have to join, you know, like. But then there was also like, this is the second war. Like there was the first war that happens during the time period that happens in the show, when Ciri gets first abducted from Centra Falls, and then the northern kingdoms push them back at Sodden, which is that big battle scene that Yennefer is in at the end of the show. And then there's, you know, peace for like 3 years or something like that. And that war was only like maybe like 3 or 4 months, I think. And then the war starts up again because Nilfgaard says, yeah, we can go back. We can do it this time. And I think at this point, this war has been going on for 4 months, I think.
Okay, so longer than we've been there.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around how long Ciri was being like trained with Geralt and stuff. Because
I don't think we know that. Because the first time that we see her there is when Triss is writing up at the beginning of the first book, right? And it's just like she's been there for, I don't know, a month, 2 months.
Yeah, long enough to do that game or whatever that you see in the beginning of the Witcher 3, right? Isn't that like the beginning? She's doing dancing on these like I'm sure
on like the posts or whatever. Yeah, and there's like some of them are whirling and shit like that. You just got to dodge them and all that. Yeah, so she's been there long enough to pick up the basics and now just be at a point of, you know, mastering them and, you know, progressing on to whatever the next step possibly is. And then Triss is there with them for a month before they decide they need to leave.
And she had like just started like her period. So like even if she was like later, I would imagine like 14 at the latest. She's like 16 now, right?
She's 16 now. Yeah.
At least 3 years, I'd say, because they, you know, if she hadn't had her period, and then she was whenever.
I think the entirety of the first book, Blood of Elves, I think the entirety of Blood of Elves takes place during that 3-year peacetime. Maybe the last year of that 3-year peacetime. And then the second, and then Time of Contempt, I think, in that book. Well, the war really actually kind of begins with everything that happens at the Tower of Goals there in Thanedd. The Mage Rebellion and all of that. I think that's when the war actually begins. Because up until that point, the Scoia'tael had been like sort of like pestering the northern kingdoms by, you know, being poked by the Nilfgaardians, just kind of waiting for an opportunity to go. And in conjunction with the Thanedd rebellion, Nilfgaard also moves forward at, you know, pretty much at the same time. I think that's when it starts, and that was in Time of Contempt, right? Not Baptism of Fire.
Yeah, I don't think that sounds right. I think
so. I think so. Yeah, I think the majority of 1 and 2 take place during the peacetime, and then 3 and 4 now we're in the war. And so the time spent, I guess that makes it.
So how long has Ciri even been training? Because she's been out for those 3 years, like, right? Like, I wasn't.
Well, I think that she was. Yeah, she's 16 now. I think that she was probably like 13 when Cintra fell, and she couldn't have spent more than 6 months on the run before she meets up with Geralt and gets taken to Kaer Morhen.
Wow. Yeah, and if
so, she might have had 6 months there at Kaer Morhen.
that's not a lot, and she learned a lot of stuff. And I mean,
yeah, but all you have to do is train at that place. It's not like you're just going to Taekwondo an hour every other day.
That's true. For her to be described as like 10 times more skilled than her friends or whatever. I don't know if that was explicit, but like.
But then she also, and then she spends
she was far more skilled with all these other people, and then she stopped training, I feel like.
Yeah, well, she gets a training that nobody else ever gets, right? There's That's fair. Almost no Witchers. Last time that they had, aside from her, the youngest Witcher was one of the ones that was there, and he was like 30 or something like that. So, like, there has not been like a new Witcher being trained in a really long time, at least in this area of the world. Maybe in another area of the world that we'll never see. Who knows?
And so there's still time for us to be Witchers, right?
That's true.
Yeah, we could still go.
So I guess that's supposed to be the conceit, is that she's being trained by these supernatural people that don't train anybody else.
Yeah.
She's also got the Elder Blood in her, which has this nondescript power that even the elves don't understand.
She is a source.
Yeah, she's got that going for her.
And she does know magic.
She's got this sort of like deep-seated darkness in her that kind of gives her a lust for violence.
Yeah. She likes it. And then she doesn't when she's in the arena.
Yeah.
She like...
It's definitely pretty...
Are you not entertained?
Right.
Throws it down.
It's totally... Yeah, that. But it's also like so showing of a teenager who is...
good point. Yeah.
Apt to be going with whatever flow it is that suits her. Like she's experiencing this like autonomy and freedom and fuck the establishment
Quote,
with
unquote,
the gang.
Bad crowd.
And so she gets into it and it's like, oh, I'm enjoying this violence, and it also is an outlet for her to lash out some of the negative feelings that she has against the people that she loves, because she feels like they've abandoned her and haven't tried hard enough to find her now.
Oh yeah, and then she gets definitely personally upset when she hears like, wait, somebody else is living in luxury with my name?
Right, yeah.
And then they're just gonna like...
So she's definitely prone to the emotions of a teenager in a world that is enabling her to enact on those emotions in an extreme way.
And they're gonna use her name to like wed, like or like take away her birthright, or like are they gonna like by making it like who's gonna marry her to like take away from her, right? Isn't that like the plan? That
the plan is that the emperor is gonna marry is going to marry Ciri.
Okay.
And he wants to marry Ciri. They have a fake Ciri right now
in case
that Vilgefortz sent to him in lieu of sending him the real Ciri, because he couldn't find the real Ciri. Right. And he thought that the Empire just wouldn't know the difference. And so that's why Vilgefortz is on the outs with the Emperor now.
Which is not what you want to be on.
That's true. But probably the most powerful person in the world at this point. So that's why like there's that scene that we get with the Emperor's like master of spies or whatever, and he's like walking through the garden, and then he goes to the whorehouse or whatever, and we're kind of like in his head as he's thinking, okay, what are we doing? And he meets up with Reince, that assassin character that we were dealing with for a book. Yeah. He works for Vilgefortz apparently, which I think is probably something that they explained last book. I don't know. And that's when we kind of realize where the fake Cirilla came from. It came from Vilgefortz. Because they were tasked with finding Ciri, couldn't find Ciri, sent a fake one, thinking that would be good enough. And from a political standpoint, it would be, because all he has to do is marry the fake one. Everyone's going to buy that and be like, okay, that's Queen of Sintra. So now,
except for at the wedding,
exactly.
Like...
And so, okay, we buy that. So Sintra's a part of the Empire now through an alliance marriage, blah blah blah. But the Emperor wants actual Ciri, and I think it's because he knows something about her having the Elder Blood. Yeah, and wants to leverage that in some way. And so there's still the marriage is being held off until they can find actual Ciri.
I missed an opportunity for an immature joke.
Oh yeah,
it's okay. Yeah, he wanted to. So I could. You don't think he wants it for her? You don't think he wants her for her? Like,
he doesn't know anything about
like
her.
A kid. No, that's what I'm saying. Like his.
Oh, if all he needed was an heir, he could. Oh well,
with the elder,
that could be part of it. That could be part of it. The main political thing is to be able to have a legitimate claim to Sintra and its holdings, right? And then to be able to get, because the Sintrans are so loyal to their matriarchy setup, the royal family, that if suddenly Cirilla rose from the ashes and was on the other side, the Centrans would be like, all right, well, we fight for them now willingly. So that would be a huge force to be able to adopt. So politically, it's like, whatever. It could be a fake. That's all we need. But I do think that Emir von Emrys wants actual Cirilla because he knows something about the Elder Blood, which is a motive that has not yet been directly revealed to us, I don't think. But I think that we can assume that at this point.
Okay. So he hired Bonhart, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Taniel hired Bonhart, who is he's another officer in the the intelligence service to the Emperor.
Oh, okay.
So he's an underling of the guy who's the head, the Master of Spies, the guy that we spent a second in. And he's been doing his own thing that we don't yet know the motives of.
Okay.
And he set up base in another like kind of border town there, and he's been kind of doing his own thing with, the blessings of the state. But he hired Bonhart to get the rats as well as Cirilla, or Falca, who he assumed was Cirilla.
Wasn't he just supposed to kill them?
Yeah.
Was he supposed to kill all of them?
Yes, he's supposed to kill Cirilla as well.
Okay.
Which is not what the Emperor wants.
Right. Yeah.
So we don't know what Taniel or Stefan Skellige
and then that's not even what he does. He just takes her.
Yeah, Bonhart takes her because we see the meeting between Stefan Skellen, Taniel, and Bonhart when he's getting hired.
Right.
And Bonhart says, do you need me to bring her your head? And Taniel goes, no, I know you to be a mercenary of your word. All you got to tell me is you did it. I believe you. Why, you want to take the head somewhere else for more money? And Bonhart goes, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
No, thank you for filling in that line.
If you'll pay me just for telling you I did it, then I'll also go cash in with the other bounty that's out on these rats, because literally every city has a bounty on these fuckers. And so then he makes the decision to keep her. But so like Taniel's doing something that we don't know the motive of yet.
Right.
And then there's that task force that we spend a little bit of time with. When we're getting one of theirs testimony at the end. There's so many things happening in this book. There's like 5 or 6 different characters that we get inside of.
And new characters, too.
And some of which we'll never see again. Like, I don't think we see that task force again, except from the point of view of Geralt or Ciri, maybe. Not from their point of view anymore.
Okay. I can believe that.
But like we spent time inside their psychics, their psionics head, while she was giving testimony about the things that were happening, because she too was bringing us up to speed from their point of view.
Yeah.
So much of this was being told from the future tense.
I liked that we were getting some of those old like psychic words, like from the Institute. You know what I mean? Like they were saying, it just made me think of the Institute when they were saying like
the juxtaposition of like modern terminology in this fantasy setting is really weird sometimes, because there's like actual science that happens in this world, and they use like, sound scientific reasoning and actual like, words and things. And it's interesting, if not mildly jarring sometimes, to come across that.
I love the idea in like any of these stories when it's like a world that's equally caught up to us in time spent, but they take a different route,
like a Full Metal.
Well, no, I mean that is where you could go quickly and easily, but that's, I mean, I was thinking other shows, but yeah, just like Full Metal, it just they went down the route of alchemy, and then
rather
exactly
than technology,
and then that was probably the first time I ever noticed it. But I always really enjoy that when it's like, because like
just alternate reality stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the idea behind My Hero. It's rather than being a world that kept growing and evolving, it's like our world, but 100 years later, where they have a bunch of people with quirks on them, and then they had to develop their world that way.
Right.
So they're not in the future, but even though they are,
right? They seem to have all the same technology, but in parts different technology because they have to have different technology.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they also still have like cell phones, which just look like normal cell phones.
So, I mean, I guess just, I like this. I don't know. I don't know what I want.
Yeah. I feel like within the next 2 chapters, we're done with the current conflict that Geralt's group is in, right? Like we get through with the half-elf dude who was hired by Vogelforts to take him out. I guess they probably killed Nightingale, that gang leader, as well in that same fight. And then maybe they end up talking to the druids finally.
Yeah, they've been hinting at that.
To get a clue as to where anything that they're looking for is. And then move on. Cirilla finishes the story, and then Bonhart leaps through the window.
Yeah, the end. Find out what happens in the next book.
And then Yennefer... We probably only get like half a chapter with Yennefer, because apparently she washed up on the Skellige Islands, right? We get that story from some fishwife that Triss hears over in an inn somewhere. And we just see like Yennefer, recovering from having spawned in the middle of the ocean and getting, tied up in a fishing net, and then going through whatever it is that happens there at the castle there in Skellige. But then she's rumored to have killed herself. Mm-hmm. So is that just like, because she's obviously not dead, like duh, obvious. So that's a distraction so that she can escape again, or just a dumb thing, just a story that got told to the people or whatever, like
she really did.
Right? Yeah.
No, she killed herself with magic, right? Supposedly.
That's what the story was, that she was like doing an experiment and it got fucked up. Like, Yennefer doesn't do that. Come on.
Yeah. No.
Also, she's in the games, so come on.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we've got the cheat code. Also, you don't kill one of the 3 main characters in book 4.
Unless you go Game of Thrones with it, and then this establishes the war. He kills off one of them.
Yeah, we get crazy in book 4, right? Start bucking trends when the series is almost over.
That's why he doesn't like the games, because they brought Yennefer back.
Right, they went against everything.
He's like, that makes no sense.
Right. I killed her.
That would be crazy if something like that happened, and then just the games.
It was just some
like,
off-screen
we're
death
bringing it
in
back.
the book. Ugh, that would be
not even
terrible.
off-screen, just like if it happens straight up, like we read it, like Yennefer gets, murdered. And is for sure dead. Like no take backsies. And then and obviously in the game, like I'm sure you would know because you watched the synopses of the other 2 games. But if that was like the first scene Yennefer's brought back. So I've been enjoying like Geralt's growth, as like it's just like you can't say person, right? Because he's a mutant. So like as just like a thing.
He can be a person still.
Okay, as a person, because I feel like he's written off to be like this like too cool kind of witcher, and then
well, I think he's resigned himself to being a loner. Yeah, because he's cast out of society. Everybody wants to hire him for his services, but then never appreciates or thinks, and they just throw their money at him and say, "Get the fuck out of our town, demon."
And that's why Dandelion was so fun, because for whatever reason, he seemed to make Geralt happy, and they seemed so opposite.
He was his only actual companion, despite being completely unlike him.
Yeah, and then now that we're getting like a little, ragtag group of guys, or heroes,
his growing friends.
Yeah. And
people that he can rely on.
He's got friends at other places. Like we knew he always had connections, and he always knows something about whatever's going on, even if it's not everything. He knows a little bit, and it's been really fun. Like, man, why can't I remember any names? The Nilfgaardian they're traveling with.
Oh, Cahir?
Yeah, their relationship growing. Obviously, like we kind of already knew Cahir had his like bond with Ciri, but like now that Geralt and him are kind of on good terms, and
right, yeah,
and they're
on like accepting terms,
yeah, and I don't know, that's just been cool. I'm excited to get back to our Regis. I mean, we're back with Regis.
Yeah, that's literally the last line of the chapter 6.
I'm excited for it though.
Yeah,
Regis is
great.
My favorite character.
Regis is great.
I feel like they could kill him off unless he's in the games, but like.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him from the games, but yeah, they could kill him. I put you on silent. He could definitely be. What is going on? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think that he's an expendable character in the grand scheme of things.
Especially with how immortal he is. It's
You're right.
One of those misdirects that we've been so
either he dies or they get to the point where he can no longer travel with them for whatever reason.
He has to go back to his own.
He takes off dimension. And we never see him again. He's like, well, I'm going to go continue being a vampire later.
Because he's from another dimension, right?
I think so.
He just gets sucked back into his own dimension.
Right. Is that what the final doom is? Is that what this thing is that everybody is so afraid of? Is that like we whatever the opposite of conjunction is, we unconjunction the spheres. And so, like, monsters go back to wherever they came from, because a lot of these monsters are not indigenous to the world.
And then it becomes like our world.
Right?
It is our history.
Yeah. Is that what happens? Not in the books, because the game says that's the problem with reading the books so late in the game for me, and now you that you started the third one, is that, like, we more or less know how major parts of the story are going to end. Like, this kingdom stays intact, or monsters are still there, so we don't actually unconjunction the spheres, or whatever it is. You know, these characters stay alive. So we've got the cheat code. The story is no less compelling, but
Siri
it's hard to speculate because of that.
Yeah. Siri hasn't told us how she got her scar yet, right?
Yeah. Oh. She gets it from... Well, no, we haven't seen the actual thing. She tells us that Taniel gives it to her.
Okay.
So we... Yeah, that's how I...
It happened yet.
Yeah.
Or like in the... Okay.
Right. Because now she didn't kill herself in the ring. Mm-hmm. And so we know that Bonhart then throws her, like, in a house somewhere, I guess, for keeping between the fights or whatever. He kind of beats her up until she gives him her whole story, because now that she couldn't kill herself, she's, like, afflicted with shame and self-hatred because she couldn't, get herself out of it. She was too cowardly to remove herself from this existence of gladiatorial combat. So she was just like, fuck it, I'll tell you everything. I don't care what you do to me anymore.
She's got a lot going on.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on. It's like extreme 16-year-old situations. I thought we had it bad. And so I guess maybe at some point she gets thrown back into the ring, and or even just hear about it anecdotally.
Oh, what if she teleports out?
I think
that she can do a little bit of magic.
Yeah, I don't know that she's got the power to be able to do that yet.
Because Yennefer could do that. Well, in the show, she could do it before she was
Yeah, well, Yennefer is, like, top 5 powerful sorcerers in the land.
And Ciri could have been.
Right, if she continued to have training.
Remember?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, strange things can happen to Ciri without reason or explanation, and it would be fine because we know her to be this font of power that's basically almost unbridled. But I don't think that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think,
and it'd be kind of disappointing if she, like,
I think that Taniel finds out that Bonhart didn't kill her, gets mad, tracks them down. There's a fight between the 3 of them. And that's when Ciri escapes, and in that escape is whenever she gets her face sliced up. Because she says that Taniel gives it to her, and that's obviously something that happens during her flight, because that's part of what has to be repaired whenever, what's his name, Voskarov or something like that, the hermit, takes her in and heals her up, the former doctor. So we're coming close to when that's going to happen. But no, we have not seen the scene where it happens. We're just told that it was him that did it.
Yeah.
And at first I was trying to figure out when that would happen, but then whenever I realized, Taniel had ordered her to be killed, Bonhart didn't do it, so now there's the conflict, and then in that conflict, Ciri gets involved but runs away.
So the blacksmith was, like, alluding to the sword being...
something.
Yeah, that'll be fun to find out.
Some sort of deep-seated destiny-level power.
I'm thinking it's, like, evil. Like, it's an evil sword or something. Like it's a sword that can only kill, or I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess it can't only kill if she got in a fight and they escaped. Or whatever, right. But, like, I have a feeling there's something evil to this sword that makes it, like, so priceless and powerful. I mean, you don't.
I don't think that there's good and evil in this world, though. I mean, aside from, like, people in their motivations, but I don't think there's an innate evil or good. Like, there's not, like, a power of evil doing things,
Yeah.
It's just evil people. Well, not evil.
I was just thinking it, like, expressing more of, like, her dark side or whatever. But it's got kind of a nice name, right? Tower and Swallow.
Yeah. Well, I think there's, like, that's part of the emblem is, like, a tower with a swallow above it. I think she just named it Swallow, which is also her name.
Yeah, it's also hers.
So... I don't know. But, I mean, there's something to that sword, for sure. There's some sort of, and I don't know if it's just because it's such a perfect sword for her that if she had it in that moment, she could have killed Bonhart. And so that's why Bonhart was like, no, you don't get it yet. And the only time that she does get it is when he throws it to her and he's, 100 feet away.
Really far away.
Yeah. So maybe that's all it was that Bonhart recognized, holy fuck, that sword is going to fuck me up if she has it right now. So
he did say, kill me with one of those swords, and then she gets
right.
And then...
But it's such a perfect sword for her that maybe that's what it is, but it could be more complicated than that. I would be willing to believe that it's more complicated than that, certainly in this book.
I was thinking, like I combined our ideas in my head and I made it like Venom in Spider-Man.
No, yeah.
How it like makes him way stronger, but it kind of makes him a bad guy.
It's a symbiote. Yeah. It could be something like that, but it hasn't talked to her yet or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think it. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just have this idea of maybe it was a cursed blade. I mean, she thinks she's cursed. Like she thinks she's death, and she's not wrong. No,
right.
Yes, I mean, maybe that's why the sword's perfect for her because she.
Right, there might be more symbolism there rather than practical implementation of magic.
Yeah, and like you said, there's no, especially like the thing isn't evil, so,
right?
And I can't imagine that like magic is evil, even if it is like a curse that's on the sword or whatever. Like in my mind, it's a cursed sword for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, it certainly
and curse
could
always
be.
Sounds negative to me, like it'll make you do bad stuff, or it'll
generally speaking,
it'll
it
attach
is,
to your
yeah,
fist or whatever. But it could just have like a curse that makes you like you can't like you get this bloodlust or whatever. Like you enjoy fighting more than ever when you have it or something. Like that's the curse. You just love to fight when you're using this order. I don't know.
But she was already predisposed to that. I mean, who knows, right? We won't know until we know.
Predispositions. Just kidding. Making this sword.
Right.
So it's not evil, but she was predisposed to.
Right. Yeah, there's something about it. I would bet money that there's something about it. It's the swallow. They're both swallows, birds of a feather.
Go to a tower. I'm just kidding.
Right.
Huh. That'd be funny if they say something like that later, like in this last section. Birds of a feather.
Right.
Her and her sword.
Just something stupid.
Yeah. What do you imagine it to look like, Katana? Kidding.
I'd have to go back and read the description because there are definitely times that I skim over vestigial things like that, where I just like read the words but don't let them sink in because I don't necessarily need to know that the blade is curved or anything like that.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll imagine something and it'll just be like this embodiment of a person. Not really. It won't be like what they actually look like. And then if I sit there and think like, well, yeah, I guess they do have blonde hair and they look like this, but that's not like I imagine.
I usually take character appearances down, but some item appearances I don't like. The only thing I can recall from it is that it's like a black sword, or it's like an extremely dark iron. So it might not be like obsidian level black, but it's black for all intents and purposes. Certainly compared to your standard steel sword. That's the only thing I know for sure is that it's a dark blade. And it's got that engraving with a bunch of stuff, some elvish, junk, and then a tower with a swallow flying over it.
Probably her name.
Yeah, probably. So much destiny around her. She's the child of destiny.
Geralt's child of destiny.
Yeah, that's true.
And
allegedly.
Yeah. So do all sorceresses can't give birth?
That's what we're told.
Not just Yennefer. For some reason, I'm getting this feeling like it's just Yennefer.
Right.
But
we're told that none of them can, and yet Geralt's mom was a sorceress. But was she a sorceress before or after having him?
Because
is another question that we'll never know.
A sorceress too, right? Because she knows some magic. She's not like a fully trained.
Yeah. Which is like, the show gives a reason why they can't have kids, right? Because during the transformation to beautify them, they take out their uterus.
But if you're already beautiful.
Right? And you don't have to go through the beautification process.
You just need to put on a glamour spell that makes you a little shinier,
Right. We also don't yet know, unless it gets explained later on in the books, that is how the beautification process actually works as well. That might have been something they made up for the show to give a solid reason why Yennefer can't have, rather than just like, oh, magic takes away your kids, because that would be lame.
Yeah. We do get a lot of Yennefer stuff that we still haven't even confirmed,
So yeah, we're told that they can't, but I don't feel like we've yet been giving any concrete evidence that that's the truth.
I don't even know why. Geralt can't have a.
There's something that happens during the trial of grasses, and he also becomes a mutant. He's a literal mutated human.
If he's too off, like mules can't give birth, so
right. So that could be that is
simple.
something that we can
easier.
Like that's easy to believe. I don't think anybody would have a problem if you gave them that explanation. Oh, he's a mutant. I mean, he doesn't even have regular human eyes anymore. So so there you go. People would be like, okay, I buy that. But if you were just told people, oh, magic takes away your babies, people would be like, I don't know.
Why?
That seems like a weak excuse. You got to give me more than that.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be why the show did what they did.
Okay.
Because it does give at least like a concrete reason why a child can't be had, because they don't have a uterus anymore.
Yeah.
But who knows? Those are answers that may or may never be fulfilled.
Yeah. What if Geralt's mom is his bio mom, probably, right?
I assume so.
Yeah. See, what if it's not even
right?
Like, what if she stole him?
Could just not be his actual mom. Could be that she became a sorceress and went through whatever that process is in the books after having him, after giving him up, because how old was she whenever she gave him up? Maybe she was only 16 at the time. We don't know.
Yeah.
And then she could conceivably still go to witch school. I don't know.
To Hogwarts.
Luna Nova. That's the name of a show in an anime that's about witches going to school.
A show in a show?
Huh? No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Did I say that? That's the name of the school in a show.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said it's the name of a show in an anime. I was like, whoa. That's a deep cut.
Right. I wish I could make cuts that deep. I don't know. I don't think I have anything else to go with.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I know I already said it. I'm just excited to get back to Regis. It'll be exciting to get the rest of this story put together. We're going to get a lot more. Like, if we can get all the little details, especially with all the new characters that we have, but, like, if we can get all the details kind of just filed out. Like, I want Ciri to go further than just finishing her story to this old guy.
Right.
You know? Like, I want the rest of the story, and I want her to be, like...
All that's left is her escape, I think, at this point. Like, the confrontation between Taniel and Bonhart, because of what we talked about, she's supposed to be dead, she's not dead, blah. I think whatever small event it is that leads up to that meeting, which I think is the catalyst for her escape, and then we're caught up with her. I think timeline-wise, the coalescence has happened. I think everybody's at the same day at this point. It's just a matter of having that last bit of catch up with Ciri, and then just everybody progresses onward at that point.
Yeah, until and then hopefully, that's kind of the way the book feels, right? Like, we're gonna get a little bit after everybody, like after Ciri catches up, we're gonna get either them meeting up or like something else is gonna happen. But we're gonna get some more, and then
because as soon as Ciri's done telling her story, whatever the thing is gonna happen that forces her out of the hermit's house. She has to run again at that point. And then Geralt and his group are already progressing. Yeah, we've gotten past the point of catch up with them. They're moving forward. I feel like it would be excessive to catch up with Yennefer, because we've never had catch up with Yennefer.
Yeah.
She's always just been, like her own force, doing things outside of everything that we see until the moment that, we get back with her, and she's just continuing to do, crazy big scale stuff. So I don't think we get any actual catch up with her. I think she just appears and we just move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just like, one more half chapter of catching up with Ciri, and then everybody continues to move forward timeline wise.
All right, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I guess just read the last section of the book. Just finish the book.
I think it's 6 chapters. No, I think it's 5 chapters. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it should be about the same amount of reading now. And then you guys know how to find us at ears_stamps on Instagram and Twitter, and then dogearsandtimestamps@gmail.com. Stay safe and clean.
Wash your hands. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, wash your hands. Don't go, into groups excessively if you don't need to,
No public groups larger than 10 here in ATX anymore as of today.
Yeah.
Well, all dining spaces and bars are closed.
Yeah. So,
it's happening, folks.
Yeah. So yeah, especially if you're in the like, the trouble categories, like older and stuff, just be careful.
Prone to illness.
Yeah. So, but I think we'll all be good. I think we'll come back next week and tell you guys what we thought of the book.
We'll be here. Even if we're in quarantine at that point and both of our businesses shut down for a period of time, that just means we've got more time to read.
Right.
And more time to drive all the way down here to my house.
Yeah. What if there was like a cop at the end of Fluke?
Traffic is great right now,
What's your emergency for leaving the house? I got to record a podcast for my fans.
For the people.
For the people.
Traffic is spectacular right now.
What are they going to listen to? They're so bored. Yeah, traffic is great right now. It's kind of sad thinking that everyone's out because they're not sick, but they're like on lockdown. Like schools are shut down.
Right. Everybody's having to do things from home. Yeah. Pretty much like everybody in the guild is now working from home or not having to go in or whatever. And so everybody's like Macy's shut down all their locations across the states. And so everybody's just playing video games and I'm just going to work still.
Yeah, I'm still working.
Retail.
Yeah.
Although I just said Macy's shut down, so that doesn't hold anymore.
I heard something too that we might be getting like a stipend, from like
the government. That's cool. Always like a part of the proposal because obviously the economy is going to crash with nobody working.
Right.
And so the idea is to give everybody a lump sum of money to go buy things and stimulate the economy. Anytime they think about a stimulus package is what they do. I think they did that like 10 years ago whenever like the housing market thing happened. Mm-hmm. I think I remember my parents talking about it. I don't know. It's in the talks. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but yeah, that would be nice. I could use an extra $1,000. Yeah,
that'd be dope.
It's going straight to bills if I get it, but
right.
I
think that's the other reason they're doing it too, because so many people are like most of America is paycheck to paycheck, So
right.
I feel like that's the other reason they would want to do it is so that not.
That would definitely be the altruistic reason, but it's definitely more just like, hey, go buy things.
Right. That's probably you're right.
It's a consumerist economy we live in.
But they care.
Yeah, right. I'm Will Hedrick.
I'm Jordan Schaffer.
This is Doggers and Timestamps.
Witcher.